So the first pillar of the Shocker Way is the issue of improvement, athletic development. We are athletes and coaches that work hard toward athletic development. One of the most significant examples of athletic development, improvement, significant, is Desiree Osborne. Desiree Osborne was a multiple-time All-American for us, but I marveled at how much Desiree improved. She ran 2 minutes and 26 seconds in the 800 meters as a high school girl. She ran 5 minutes and 26 seconds in the 1600 meters as a high school girl. She comes to Wichita State, and immediately we knew that this girl meant business. And she was a good runner as a freshman. If I remember correctly, she made the final in the conference championship outdoors as a freshman in both the 800 and the 1500, but she didn't score in either one, if I'm not mistaken. Cross country, she was one of the very top freshmen in the league. And so it was evident that she came and she worked hard and she meant business. But as she developed and she began to progress, her improvement was just unbelievable. And I remember multiple times telling the team that Desiree Osborne had improved more than any athlete that I had ever been around. Ultimately, she finished 4th in the NCAA championship in the 5,000 meters, just remarkable. And she had very fast mile and 1500 times, down under 4 minutes and 20 seconds in the 1500 meters, and down into the mid 430s in the mile run indoors, and always an unbelievably tough competitor. And so Desiree Osborne was certainly an athlete that we knew was here to improve, and I feel like she exemplified the pillar of the Shocker Way, dedicated to improvement. Another athlete that I felt like improved unbelievably was Jared Foley. Jared Foley was our conference champion in the 200 meters. In one of his years, Jared Foley was certainly one of the very top sprinters in the Missouri Valley Conference that year, and won the conference indoor championship in the 200. One of the earmarks about Jared, as an aside, is that he got unbelievably serious about nutrition. And as a result of his leadership, our entire team seemed during that period of time and for the years following to get extremely serious about nutrition, and it seemed to revolutionize his track and field. But the most significant, unbelievable attribute about Jared Foley was his improvement. Jared Foley ran, as a high school athlete, 67 seconds in the 400 meters as a 9th grader. As a 10th grader, he improved to 64 seconds in the 400 meters. As an 11th grader, a junior in high school, Jared Foley ran 55 seconds in the 400 meters, which was obviously an improvement from his sophomore year of 64 seconds, but still certainly was not an NCAA Division I recruit. His senior year, Jared finally improved some, and he ran 51 seconds all year long in the 400 except for one race, and he ran 49.9 right out here in Cessna Stadium in the state preliminary, but then in the final he went right back up over 51 seconds. Ultimately, Jared ended up running 46-second relay legs for us, 47-second open races, and again became one of the fastest guys in the Missouri Valley Conference when he won a 200-meter championship. So certainly Jared Foley is one of the guys that I think of that kept focused and improved most dramatically as a college athlete. Previously, I've already talked to our team about Michael Bryan and his dramatic improvement. Michael Bryan has improved unbelievably till now. He's out over 70 meters, and he was 12th place in what was by far the toughest NCAA final in NCAA track and field history. Every other year it would have been top 5 except one, and in that year it would have been top 8. So To be out over 70 meters is truly remarkable. Every one of the athletes in our program should be keenly aware of work ethic and his process, his pursuit of track and field excellence, and that has resulted in him being an athlete that has improved significantly more than athletes that I've ever been aware of. I just am so impressed with Michael Bryan's improvement. The next pillar of the Shocker Way is significant commitment to team success. Alafine Tuliamuk was obviously one of the greatest athletes in the history of Wichita State athletics. She was 13 times first team All-American, just an unbelievable athlete, truly one of the all-time greats. And yet we would go to a conference championship, and the first time I've ever been aware of an athlete, of a distance runner competing in 4 distance races at a championship event, was Alafine Tuliamuk, prepared to do whatever it took in order to help the team win a championship. She competed in the indoor mile, the indoor 3,000, the indoor 5,000, and she ran the mile on the DMR that week. And that was unbelievably tough duty, and Alafine agreed to do it with no problem. She suggested it. And an interesting thing about Alafine is that when she arrived at Wichita State, especially coming from Kenya and all of that, she really didn't understand the whole team concept. She didn't really understand what that was all about. She really wanted to be good, but the team was not part of her thinking. She developed that mindset here at Wichita State, and I'm confident that as we educated her about the Shocker Way and as we made her aware of what it takes for a team to win a championship, she was all in on that and was prepared to do whatever it took to help this team win team championships. Another athlete that really impressed me in one particular episode was Micah Land. She was an All-American for us in the steeplechase event. She was a very good distance runner all the way through college, but a memory that I have that was extremely special to me was Micah Land standing there in front of me at a conference championship after having won the steeplechase event in that championship meet, after having scored very high in the 1,500 meter event, and now the 5,000 is getting ready to happen, and Mike is getting ready to run the steeplechase event at the NCAA championships in a couple weeks. But she's standing there as I'm looking over the scoring, and she says, "Coach, are we going to win this meet? Do I need to run the 5,000? And we did not want her to run the 5,000 because we wanted her to begin thinking about and focusing on getting ready for the NCAA championship. I said, "Micah, I guess I cannot tell you that mathematically it's impossible for the second place team to overtake us, but I'm confident we're going to win this meet. I don't think you should run the 5,000. I think you should start getting ready for the NCAA meet. I think you should go cool down and get your mind prepared to get yourself ready for the NCAA meet." She said, "Are you sure we're going to win?" And I said, "Micah, I'm confident we're going to win this meet. It looks very good. Everything looks like it's falling into place. I'm believing confidently we're going to win." She said, "Are you certain?" And I said, "Micah, I can't tell you absolutely certain, but don't plan on running the 5,000. You don't need to do it. I'm confident of that." And then they line up for the 5,000, and I look over there, and there's Micah on the line, running. She was not going to take any chances. She was going to do everything in her power to make certain that she contributed to the team effort. She was going to do everything in her power to make certain that we won that team title. She won a championship. She finished extremely high in the 1,500, and she finished high and scored points for the team in that 5,000 meters. So it meant the world to me that she had that team mindset. Audacia Moore was an athlete that was simply unbelievable. She scored more points in conference championship team competition than any athlete in the history of our program. Unbelievable how many points she scored. And when she came here, I began noticing that when we would be doing plyometrics, hopping and bounding, that in addition to being the fastest girl in the history of the state of Kansas at the high school level, Audacia bounded and hopped beautifully. And we started talking about the long jump and the triple jump. And sure enough, she started taking it up, and we figured out that there was no way that she wasn't going to help the team in the long jump and the triple jump. So Coach Wise was concerned on our way to one of the championship meets, because he knew that the long jump was going to be happening just before the preliminaries of the 200, and he wanted to make sure that she was okay for a lot more track and field. She still had the triple jump, and she still had the 60 and the 200 and possibly the relay on the final day, and he was concerned. So we said, no problem, just get off a good jump in one of your first two jumps, Audacia, and then you can head off and run that 200 and not worry about the long jump, and hopefully you'll score some points for the team. So she takes her first two jumps, and she's sitting in 8th place, and she makes the final, and then she goes off and runs the 200-meter preliminary, and she makes the final in the 200, and she comes back and she's changing her shoes, and I said, Audacia, you don't need to continue jumping. And she said, I don't want to lose that point. I don't want to lose that point. I'm still in 8th place, and I want to have that point. And I'm like, Audacia, you've got a lot of track and field left tomorrow in the 60 and the 200 and the triple jump. I just don't know that it's necessary. And she said, I'm not losing that point. I'm going to keep jumping. She kept jumping, moved all the way up to 4th place in the long jump event, and it exemplified the pillar of significant commitment to the team effort. And it just meant the world to me to see a girl who was determined. And then, of course, she continued on and had a great rest of the meet in the 60 and the 200 the next day, but she was not going to give up that point. And so it exemplified her commitment to team success, and that's the Shocker way. Another athlete that I just found to be incredible was Bruce Swan. Bruce Swan is certainly one of, if not the finest sprinter in the history of our program. I can remember Bruce Swan saying to me that he would die for the relay. He would die for the team. He was a multiple-time champion in our conference. But what exemplified this as much as anything was at a conference outdoor championship at Indiana State. Bruce was running a leg on the 4x4. We were battling for a top 3 finish. This is in my first year at Wichita State. And he gets the baton and takes off and goes around to about the 150-meter mark. After 150 meters of running, he's running down the backstretch looking fabulous. And he pops up in the air, grabs his hamstring, and it's clearly evident that he has strained his hamstring significantly. He knew that whether or not we held on to 3rd place was significant in this meet, and he hobbled around, literally dragging that leg. And he was on his way to something like a 46-second relay leg. He gets it around in about 53 seconds, but he gets the baton around and hands off. And we had such good guys at the end of that relay that we moved all the way back up to 2nd place and maintained our top 3 finish in the meet. Bruce was committed to the team. It was unbelievable. Same thing on the 4x1. He ran with the team at the NCAA championship, and at the regional meet, he tweaked his hamstring, and he said, Coach, I'll be ready for the relay. Don't enter me in the 200. I'll do anything I have to do to help the relay. And he loved those guys on the relay, and it was truly remarkable. And he ran an unbelievable leg on that relay in Sacramento at the NCAA championship. So Bruce Swan exemplified the second pillar of the Shocker way, which is significant contribution to team success, significant commitment to team excellence. The third pillar of the Shocker way is perseverance. I've thought of some athletes that hung in there significantly. The first one that I want to mention is Signe Fornshell. Signe was a 2-minute and 23-second 800-meter runner out of high school. Her freshman year, I remember her improving dramatically, and running something like 217 or 216 as a freshman in college. And it was like, man, way to go, Signe, you've improved nicely. Well, that was awesome, but after that point in time, she went through a rough patch with some injuries, and when she'd get injured, she'd get out of shape, and she didn't run well as a sophomore, and then she didn't run well as a junior, but she hung in there through a lot of tears and struggle and challenge. And I, as a coach, felt terrible for her, and I was truly ready to say, Signe, why don't you just be a manager on our team? It appears that this is just not happening. I feel bad for you about the way that this has gone. Thankfully, I never said that to her, but I will tell you that when she came back for her senior year, I could tell that she had had a good summer. She had hung in there through 2 full years of difficult challenge, and she was getting back in shape. And through that year, she ran better and better and better, and her time started dropping back down. During her sophomore and junior year, she could hardly beat 2.5 minutes in the 800 meters. But now she's back down under 220, 218, 217. And at the conference meet that spring, she ran 212 in the 800 meters and got 3rd place in the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. And that exemplified to me her perseverance. Perseverance is the 3rd pillar of the Shocker Way. And Signe Fornshell exemplified perseverance, and it meant the world to me. Another girl that exemplified the Shocker Way in terms of perseverance was Emily Doffing. Emily was a good athlete from Conway Springs, Kansas. Came here to try to do the heptathlon. Was a good hurdler at the high school level, but not good enough. It didn't appear to run at this level in the high hurdles, but she was in the 100-meter hurdles. But she was a girl that we thought maybe could do the heptathlon, and she did, and she was improving, but she would battle with injuries. And she battled and struggled and enjoyed being part of the team and worked at it for 3 full years. In her final year on the team, she was one of the final girls to make the team in the 100-meter hurdles at the conference championship, with us hosting right out here. And she went into the meet ranked 14th, and it's her final go-round. And she literally is graduating on this particular year, and she runs the preliminary, and we're listening, and she ties for 8th, which was a wonderful accomplishment. Brought it all the way to her final race, ties for 8. Now they have to separate this tie down to the 1,000th, and when they separate it down to the 1,000th, they announce that Emily Doffing has beaten the other girl she tied with for 8th by a couple of thousandths of a second, and she's going to advance to the final and score for the team. And it absolutely meant the world to her. And there's a photograph of her girlfriends hugging her and congratulating her on persevering through all of the difficult ups and downs of college track and finishing with such a wonderful achievement her senior year, making the final at the conference championship in the 100-meter hurdles. It meant the world to me. Another girl that had that exact same kind of an experience was Sharon Zeller. Worked through her entire career as a distance runner, and certainly did not appear to be a girl that would probably ever get up into a final in a track race, or maybe score in the top 8 in a track race. But we loved having her on the team. She was a great girl. She worked hard. Was on the cross country team. Her senior year, Sharon Zeller finishes 8th in the 10,000 meter event at the conference championship right out here at Cessna Stadium, and was in tears. It meant so much to her. Sharon Zeller will live for a lifetime remembering that she hung in there and battled and made her way through the ups and downs and the difficult challenges of college track and field, and finished with a wonderful accomplishment of scoring and contributing to the team effort. That, to me, is a demonstration of the 3rd pillar of the Shocker Way, which is perseverance and fighting all the way to the end. Matt Truman was a guy who came here from right here in Wichita, a local guy, 400-meter runner, and Matt was not an NCAA Division I level 400-meter runner. He was good, but not great. It was clearly evident that he would probably struggle to get up in there. He ran some relays for us, and he helped us in that regard, and he was a great team guy that we loved having on the team. But it became evident that probably Matt was not going to be battling up into the final in the 400 meters because we had a league with tough 400-meter runners. Somewhere leading into Matt's senior year, he talks with Coach Wise, and the decision is made to try the 400-meter hurdles. And Matt Truman practices those hurdles, having never hurdled before, practices, and makes his way through his senior year, dreaming of making a final because that guy wanted to contribute to the team effort. And sure enough, he goes to the conference championship outdoors, advances to the final, and makes 4th place in the 400-meter hurdles at the Missouri Valley Conference Championship. And it was a wonderful accomplishment, and it was a wonderful story from my perspective. And Matt Truman exemplified the 3rd pillar of the Shocker Way, which is perseverance. We've got a couple that are both All-Americans. Gavin Yetter married Hunter Veith and is now Gavin Veith. They just had a baby, and both made All-American in the multi-events. Wonderful athletes. If you see evidence of their performances around here, you'll think of them as 2 of the best athletes in the history of our program. But what you might not know is how many injuries and tough times that both of them individually battled through. Unbelievable injury issues. In one stretch of time, I remember that Gavin was not sure if she'd ever be able to continue track and field. She banged up her knee so bad that it required surgery and pretty much a complete reconstruction. Hunter had 2 season-ending injuries in consecutive years that were just devastating. Both of them hung in there, battled through. Hunter ends up being 2nd in the NCAA in the indoor heptathlon, and Gavin ends up being 12th in the NCAA in the outdoor heptathlon on the women's side, and she qualified to that meet, if I remember correctly, as the 24th and final qualifier to the NCAA championship. So Gavin Yetter and Hunter Veith, and now Gavin and Hunter Veith, exemplified the Shocker Way with regard to the issue of perseverance. And so I wanted to make sure and mention both of them.